Chapter 28, Matthew. Yes! This is the most important chapter in Matthew. All of it is important, but there are majors and then there's minors. This is major. It's the resurrection of Jesus. Yeah, baby. This is it. But if it wasn't for the resurrection, then our faith is in vain. So says Paul. We're yet in our sins. So said Paul. In 1 Corinthians 15, look it up. All right, so Jesus did raise from the dead. That's everything. In the last video, I talked about the importance of that. Now, as I go through this, please keep in mind the importance of what this is. This is very, very important. And I believe it, completely believe it. Not just because, well, the Bible's a good book and all that. No, it's literally revelation. As a matter of fact, just recently, I wrote it down. See if I can find it real quick. Might as well tell you. I mean, this is sudden and just out of nowhere. Yep, here it is. I wrote this down, but I remember it. 2 o'clock in the morning, just recently, in my office right here, in this chair, I was facing that way. My back was facing this way. I had a soft word from Jesus. I'm not making this up. And I didn't even think about it until just now, right here. I was just studying and thinking and all. I don't think I was even thinking about the resurrection of Jesus. And I literally heard Jesus Christ. I'm not loony. I'm not crazy. I'm not making this up. I heard Jesus speak to me in my spirit, down deep. And it wasn't a word for word. I've had God speak to me like that. I've heard the Lord speak to me word for word. I could tell you quote exactly what he said. But I sensed that Jesus spoke to me and that he really did share with me that the resurrection is true, or that he was resurrected. I think that's maybe why he did it for here. In case doubts, people doubt. I've had doubts. I've had spiritual darkness come at me, try to smother me, demons just out of nowhere. There's no God and all that. It's like, what? I believe it. But he really attacks you, the enemy. There really is a devil. I could go into that a lot, but I want to get back to the resurrection here. But I just thought of that just now. Maybe I'm supposed to share it with you. And I don't want you to just take my word for it because, well, I'm honest and God spoke to Gordon, because other religions, they say that God spoke to them and all that. But it's such a satisfying thing and an assurance. Jesus literally just told me, just the other day, it was Jesus. It wasn't the Father. I could sense him speaking to me and say, I was resurrected. I love it. What a wonderful, wonderful Lord. And we're supposed to go by faith, but it's nice to have an assurance here and there. And you just go by faith, even if you don't hear God's voice like that. Just trust him and seek him. And I love it. It was very, very, very quiet, very just faint. But I know I heard him. It was deep in me. And I was like, it took me because it was sudden. I was unexpected. He does it a lot. And I just had him speak that. But that's cool. But anyway, here's, now let's go to this thing about resurrection. We have Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. 4 people, not just one person in some religion who says that God spoke to him or an angel spoke to him. 4 different witnesses. And there's a lot more. We'll get to that as we go. But these 4 writers mentioned this and talked about it. Matthew, I believe he really wrote the book of the Bible, that Matthew. Some people say he didn't and all that. They don't know. But I'm not going to tell you. Well, anyway, in the 2nd century, someone literally said that he wrote this. But Matthew was a tax collector. He heard all this and all. Then we have Mark. Mark obviously got his information from Peter because Mark wasn't a part of the apostles and all. So we have Matthew, an apostle. We have Mark that got it from Peter. And that was spoken also in the 2nd century. Someone said that Peter gave it to Mark. Mark wrote it down. Then we have Luke. He got it from investigations. I love it. He was like a detective. And he went around interviewing all sorts of people. He said that in Luke 1. We'll get into that later when we get to Luke. And then we have John, who was the Apostle John. So, so good, so good. Now, it's really important if you read each of these things, Matthew 28, and then Mark 16, and then Luke 24, and then John 21. Those are the last chapters, big peak chapters, high points here. They all start the same on each of those chapters. If you read them, they seem to be different from each other. But let's start with this. Number one, it's truth. It's a fact. And that I'm not going to go into. I could talk a lot about it. I'll mention things here and there. But I have 11 evidences that I've gained. Not the idea that Jesus just spoke to me the other day. Wow. It's so neat that I didn't realize I was going to tell you this on this. But literally I have at least 11 evidences to prove that Jesus rose from the dead. There's evidences of it. I can't just prove it like a scientific experiment, and observe it. It's a faith thing, but there's evidences that makes your faith rational, and it's a good thing to believe. So it's truth, and it's a fact, absolutely. The fact is Jesus raised from the dead, besides the fact that he promised that he would be and all that, Well, anyway. Then, this is really cool. Number 2 about the resurrection is women. Do you see number 2 there? Why do I have women? Because women were the first ones that actually saw Jesus. Yay, girls! So now, why does that help me figure that, and this is one of the evidences, I think, that really happened. Because women in that day, I've actually talked about this a little bit, let me bring it up. If you're going to make up a false religion, if you're going to make up something, you're not going to write down women as the ones who saw Jesus first. Because women in that day, most of the time, in the big court cases and all that, they were not allowed to be witnesses. They couldn't testify in court. Like, let's say they saw something, they can't go to court. I saw him do it. It doesn't happen. They don't. In that day, women were kind of less than men in their minds, The men, their testimony was okay, not the women. They're gullible, or they just feel like they're not as worthy of valuable in their testimony and all that. So it's a men's world at that time. I mean, I should do this. At that time, though, that's how they felt about it, but it's really like this. Women should be allowed to testify. And some things, in domestic court cases and kind of smaller cases and all that, they would listen to them and all. But anyway, women for the most part were not, their word wasn't taken. And yet, they were, the writers, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, every one of them wrote about women. Now, they didn't write all of the women. Like John wrote just about Mary Magdalene because he really focused on her. That doesn't mean, this is the problem. People say, well, see, there's not other women there. And he says something different than the other. No, he just focused on Mary Magdalene because she was the first one that Jesus appeared to. Later, by the way, I'm going to go through Matthew and then Mark, Luke, John, and then, I might do it in Matthew's thing. I don't know. We'll see. Where I'm going to put it all together, and it's like pieces of puzzle. It's kind of cool. God dropped all these pieces in each of these Gospels, and it all comes together beautifully. And so the point is, number 3 is that there's differences. Do you see that right there? Differences. There's differences in the Gospel, but differences of when they're telling parts of the story, they're telling parts of the story. They left out some of it. Does that mean it was not true? Of course not. Like if I took a group of us and we saw an accident or something, and you're on one side of the corner, there's another person on the other side of the corner accident, I'm going to say what I saw and what I know. I didn't see the other side. The other ones say that. The others saw that. The other, and then we put it together to get the whole picture. Or some of them decided, like I have here, they decided to focus on certain things. Let's see. They decided, I'm not going to tell the whole story. Part of it could be because, like Luke did a bunch of stuff, or maybe his scroll was running out of the scroll. There's only so much space, or they did it smaller or larger, and they wrote more of the facts that they knew because their scroll's almost over. They had to unroll the scroll. Okay. But one thing that's very cool is these stories right here, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. It destroys the idea that they copied off of each other. There's a theory, and a lot of people believe this, that Matthew copied off of Mark and Luke copied off of Mark, and Mark was the first gospel written. Or they had another unknown source called the Quelle, the Q source, where they just have all these theories about. I don't believe in any of that at this point. I've had some good teaching, by the way, from a professor. But anyway, right here, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, this is a proof to me that they didn't copy, because if you look at it, you say, huh? He says this, and they don't contradict. So I want to say that right here. They did not copy, which I believe they did not copy. They didn't collaborate. They didn't get together, and they just picked their information that they remembered, saw, or heard about, and they wrote it down. They don't contradict. Now, that's a big thing that people think in these stories right here, that they contradict. But it's very cool. Later, I'll show you how one fits the others just perfectly. Like, you know, pieces of puzzle, and you put it in, it fits perfectly, and you get the real picture of it. Very cool. They really don't contradict. It's pretty amazing. And they also decided to do certain focuses. They left out parts because they weren't interested in sharing that particular part for a very good reason. Okay, so there's that. By the way, the women, and I haven't read it yet, I'll read it to you in a second. If you put all of them together, there's at least 6 women here. And these are the 6 women who came to the tomb. At least 6. Can you read that? At least 6 women came to the tomb. Mary, 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 Mary. There's 4 Marys. Now, I'll tell you what, if they were fabricating, they were trying to make up a story, they were lying about this thing, to like he rose from the dead, because how's he going to be raised from the dead? Someone rising from the dead, right? He did, because of God's power. But you wouldn't write down 4 different Marys. You'd come up with different names. So that's just the way it is, guys. 4 Marys. It's just the way it is. Jesus appeared to women first. Why would I write that? Again, going back to that one. Because I'm a Jewish person, I'm going to tell other Jews, yeah, these women said it. They're going to say, women, you know, we're not going to listen to it, but that's how it is. So, see, it's a proof. It's an evidence, in my opinion. It really was true. This really was a true story, especially when you have 4 Marys that you did, because it really was. Now, Mary, obviously, Miriam was a popular name, obviously. So there happened to be 4 Marys in this thing. And then Salome, number 5, Salome, and then number 6 is Joanna. So we have Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary Magdalene of Magdala. She was the one that first saw Jesus, which we'll get to, especially in John's Gospel. Mary, the mother of James and Joses, or Joseph, okay? And then Mary, the wife of Clopas, right there. And then we have Salome, the mother of James and John, the Zebedee kids. Okay, and then we have Joanna, the wife of Chuza, right there. So those names are mentioned. If you put them all together, that's the list. And I said others because it literally said in one of the Gospels, others. Although maybe it mentioned like 2 or 3 of the names and it said others, which included those, but who knows? There could be even others, more than 6. So what happened is they got up really early in the morning. They got up early in the morning and prepared some spices. And, who was it? Was it Mark's Gospel? They actually got up so early and they went somewhere and they were up and they bought some more spices, by the way. The spices, remember in the burial, right before the burial, Joseph of Arimathea, you know, and then also, oh my God, Nicodemus. I couldn't think of his name for a second. Those 2 guys, how they prepared the body, it was kind of rushed. It's an embalming their body. They did it really quick, and so they came back and wanted to do it better. By the way, they did not know the soldiers were there. They didn't know that, because they had left on that Friday, rested on Saturday, the Sabbath, early Sunday morning. They got up super early. Could have been 3:30, 4, I don't know. And they had planned this. They talked together, let's get up early and then go embalm his body. And they didn't know. No one told them because Pilate had put a guard there of about 16. Sometimes it was 8. Sometimes it could have been 4. As little as 4 and as big as 16, maybe even more. 8 was a popular number too of some of the soldiers coming in. Now, it says this, after the Sabbath, at the end, like way at the end. Now, here's an example. If you read this, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, they have different things. And in Mark, it says, that the rising of the sun. Now, see, that's, people say, aha, see, there's a contradiction. And it says early in the morning, or very early before the sunrise. And then Mark says at the rising of the sun, like it's already rising. Well, let me explain it right now. Anyway, it says after the Sabbath at dawn on the first day of the week. First day of the week in the Jewish calendar is Sunday. Last day, the seventh day, is Sabbath, the Shabbat. So here's how I think what happened. The women probably were over here in Bethany. This is the city of Jerusalem. Over here is Mount of Olives. We've talked a lot about. There's that valley of Kidron right here. And they crossed over here. They probably came from over here. Maybe it was up here. Maybe it's over. Maybe it's in here. But anyway, they crossed. Now, if they were in Bethany, which I don't have this on this map, over here, if they were coming from Bethany over here, the town, it's about a mile. They had to cross over the mountain, and it's about a mile from here to Jerusalem. So that's a good walk. And they're carrying some spices and all. Who knows how heavy they were. Anyway, they come in and they're walking early in the morning, and they had to come either up to here. Remember, this is what's called Gordon's Calvary, which is still possible that that's where it was. I'm not definite that it's over here. I think it's over here, but some good argument over here. One of these places, Jesus died on the cross, and one of those places is where the garden was. The garden where Joseph put the body of Jesus in his tomb. And so, well, whichever one. Either way, they come up here or they have to come through here. I don't think they would have come around here. They may have gone through the city and up here. I don't know. But it took time to get up there. So early in the morning, they started out. And it's dark, and it's just about to come up, the sun. When they finally arrive at the tomb, it's a rising of the sun. And not just the S-U-N sun, the rising of S-O-N sun of Jesus Christ. But so that's how they put it together. And you put all these together, and it's like, wow, this is so cool. It really does fit beautifully. It's not a contradiction. But let me finish up here. It says, after the Sabbath at dawn on the first day of the week, Sunday, early in the morning. Matthew mentions 2 of the 7, or 6, plus. It says Mary Magdalene and the other Mary. I think the other Mary is the one he mentioned in the chapter before, Mary of James and Joses, because I already mentioned that. Oh, the other Mary, in my opinion. The other Mary went to look at the tomb. Now, Mark, I think, is the one, who says I might be wrong, but I could turn to over quick. It might have been Mark that says, when the Sabbath was over, see, it's after that, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome, see, he mentioned 3, brought spices that they might go to anoint Jesus' body. See, he mentioned the idea that they came there. So, go to see the tomb, the other one, kind of put it together, you get the picture of this. There was a violent earthquake. Now, this violent earthquake might have happened right here, or it might have happened a little earlier, or something like that. And I think I'm going to end there to keep it short. But we'll start with verse number 2. Number 1, I just want to introduce you to these wonderful women. And they came to visit the body of Jesus and to put more spices on. That was a tradition. The last thing I do want to say, I think, is kind of give you a picture. I don't know what the tomb looked like. It was built, it might have been a smaller mountainish thing here. It might have been larger. There were mountainous areas there in Jerusalem and around Jerusalem. So, yep, there it is. So there's a picture. And then the stone was across that. And some have said it's a weight of, who knows, it could have been literally a weight of about 2 tons. Some maybe a ton and something else. But that was a big, that's not huge wide-wise, but heavy stone. And it's probably, maybe they cut it out, so maybe they cut a pretty good circle instead of kind of jaggedy. A really nice disc. It seems like they built them that way. Anyway, of course, I don't know what it really looked like, but it was, by the way, it was low. You had to duck under. I actually visited Israel, and I went into a tomb that was one of the first century type tombs. I had to duck down and go into like a cave. So that's kind of what it may have looked like. Again, this part might have been a lot lower, right here, I don't know. But I kind of drew this one bigger, but maybe 60 feet, 80 feet, I don't know. But anyway, there it is. There's the tomb. And that stone was rolled away. by an angel. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Thanks for listening and watching. And I hope you're learning from this. I hope you start falling in love with Jesus. He truly is a resurrected one. He's alive. Yes, we have hope. God bless you.